You're listening to Confessions of a Counselor podcast. Here we will talk all things mental wellness. Hi everyone, it's Janice here, and welcome back to Confessions of a Counselor. Today I thought we would talk about some tools that I love to use to enhance therapy. There's skills that we can learn within therapy, and we can practice those and learn those in session. But when it comes to navigating therapy and actually doing work within the therapy session, I find it really helpful to journal and to use meditation. So these are two things that I think are really important to use in the context of therapy to help us be able to develop our skills and to create change outside of session. So oftentimes when someone comes to their first session or are thinking about therapy, they ask, is there anything I should bring? Is there anything I should do in order to prepare for our sessions? One of the big things that I really like to use as a tool is a therapy journal. So this allows us a place to write down what we're learning in session. So sometimes we can talk about a lot of things in session, and so it can be really helpful to be able to write it down. So personally, as a therapist, I do not mind waiting at all for someone to write down something I've said or to make a note of what's going on. And I find that this process really enhances our ability to remember our tools and our skills outside of session. And this then also gives us a place where we can process our thoughts and our feelings outside of session. So again, the goal and the objective is to get to a place where perhaps we don't need to come to therapy as often or at all, and we can be practicing these skills outside of session. So journaling is a way that we can start to do the work that we do in therapy sessions outside of therapy. So journaling is something that I highly encourage. It is not for everyone. So if this is not for you, then we can find ways to integrate that don't require journaling. But remembering that journaling doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be or do anything. It's just a place for us to process. And the other one is meditation. So you've probably been able to pick up, if you've been listening to other podcast episodes, that I do not take the stance that therapy is purely a mind experience, right? We are not in a thought experiment when we are in therapy, that our mind and our body are connected in our experience of learning and growing and skill building. So including our bodies in therapy is really important. And so one of the easiest ways to do this is through meditation, and by practicing meditation. So whether that's mindfulness or guided meditation or just taking a couple of deep breaths, this can really help us to integrate what we're experiencing in our body with what's happening in our mind. So I often find clients either come into session and they're so in their bodies that they have a hard time connecting with what we would call perhaps their rational mind. So their ability to kind of create thoughts and logic around what they want to do. They purely kind of make decisions from their feelings. Or the opposite is true, where they're so in their heads that the only thing that is guiding them is logic and reason, and they're not taking into account how their body is feeling. So meditation and mindfulness allow us to start to integrate these two parts of ourselves to work together, because both are important. So these are skills and tools that I find really helpful to kind of come to therapy with, so that we can have a full experience of therapy and not just be playing out a thought experiment that is going to make it really hard to integrate outside of session when you're not being walked through the process with me there. So these are tools that I really like to use. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Confessions of a Counselor podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to your podcast, both on Apple and Android. New episodes will be released every Friday. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to join the conversation. Leave a review or subscribe to the podcast hosted on the Anchor app. All these details can be found at janicelyons.com. Until next time, take care.